Chapter 12. Between myself and the powers of darkness. They ran, pouncing across the frozen ground, which crunched under their feet. Megabit twins and Mrs. O'Keefe. They ran across the rhymed lawn and through the aisles of the twins' Christmas trees to the stone wall. Meg held her hands out to Mrs. O'Keefe and helped her over the low wall. Ben, still holding her mother-in-law's hand, pulling her along, she ran down the path, past the two large glacial rocks to the star-watching rock. Charles Wallace was lying there, eyes closed, white as death. Beezy, Meg cried. The rune, quickly! Mrs. O'Keefe was panting, her hand pressed to her side. With me, she gasped. Grandma! Dennis knelt on the rock, bending over Charles Wallace, feeling for his pulse. With Chuck in this fateful hour, Mrs. O'Keefe gasped, and Meg joined in, her voice clear and strong. I place all heaven with its power, and the sun with its brightness, and the snow with its whiteness, and the fire with all the strength it hath, and the lightning with its rapid wrath, and the winds with their swiftness along their path, and the sea with its deepness, and the rocks with their steepness, and the earth with its darkness. All these I place, by God's almighty help and grace, between myself and the powers of darkness. Light returned slowly. There had been pain and darkness, and all at once the pain was relieved, and light touched his lids. He opened them to the sharpness of starlight. He was lying on the star-watching rock, with Gaudior anxiously bending over him, tickling his cheek with a curly silver beard. Gaudior, what happened? We barely got you out in time. Did Matthew? He died. We didn't expect it quite so soon. The ecthroid. I guess we got to 1865 after all. Charles Wallace looked up at the stars. Stand up. Gaudior sounded cross. I don't like to see you lying there. I thought you were never going to open your eyes. Charles Wallace scrambled to his feet, lifted one leg, then the other. How strange to be able to use my legs again. How wonderful. Gaudior knelt beside him. Climb. Charles Wallace, legs shaky as though from long disuse, clambered onto the great back. He rode a Gaudior who had become as tiny as a dragonfly, rode among the fireflies, joining their brilliant dance, twinkling, blinking, shooting over the star-watching rock, over the valley, singing their song, and he was singing too, and he was himself, and yet he was all he had learned. He carried within himself Brandon and Chuck, and their song, and the song was glory. And he rode a Gaudior who had become as large as a constellation, rode among the galaxies, and he was himself, and he was also Madoc, and he was Matthew. Matthew flying through showers of stars, caught up in the joy of the music of the spheres, part of the harmony, part of the joy. The silver neigh of the unicorn sounded all about the star-watching rock, rippling over Meg and the twins, Mrs. O'Keefe and Charles, and the night was illumined by the flash of the horn, binding them with oblivion as it pointed at each of them in turn. Meg thought she heard Charles Wallace call, Gaudior, goodbye! Oh, Gaudior, goodbye! Who was Gaudior? She knew once who Gaudior was. Again she heard a silver knell ringing in farewell. Sandy asked, Hey, did you see lightning? Dennis looked bewildered. It's too cold. And look at all the stars. What was that flash then? Beats me, like everything else tonight. Charles, what was with you? I couldn't find a pulse and then suddenly it throbbed under my fingers. Slowly, color was returning to the boy's cheeks. You came just in time. He looked at Mrs. O'Keefe, who still had her hand to her side and was breathing with painful gasps. Beezy, thank you. There was infinite sadness in his voice. That's what Meg called her, Sandy said. What is all this? Mom O'Keefe laid a charge on me. Dennis said, We told you it was nuts for you to think you could stop Branzillo single-handed. Did you fall asleep or something? You could have got a frostbite. He sounded concerned and uncertain. Come on in now, Sandy added, and no more of this nonsense. After the president's call, you call it nonsense? Meg demanded fiercely. Meg, you shouldn't be out in the cold, Dennis objected. I'm all right. Charles Wallace took Mrs. O'Keefe's hands in his. Thank you. Chuck's no idiot. Mrs. O'Keefe thumped Charles Wallace on the shoulder. Come on, Come on, Sandy urged. Let's get moving. Dennis held Mrs. O'Keefe's arm. We'll help you. They returned to the house, Sandy and Dennis supporting Mrs. O'Keefe, Meg holding Charles Wallace's hand as though they were both small children once more. Ananda greeted them ecstatically. Mrs. Murry hurried to her youngest son, but refrained from touching him. She's really adapted us, hasn't she? You think she'd been with us forever? Watch out for that tail. Mr. Murry moved between the dog and the model of the Tesseract. A couple of indiscriminate wags and you could undo years of work. He turned to his daughter. Meg, you shouldn't have gone out in this weather with your cold. It's all right, Father. My cold's better, and I didn't get chilled. Did the president's? No, nothing yet. Meg tried to think. What did she remember? The president's call, of course, Mrs. O'Keefe's rune, and the response to the weather, the coming of Ananda. Kithing with Charles Wallace in the attic, kithing through aeons of time, kithing which had faded to dreams because the unicorn. A unicorn. That was absurd. There was Mrs. O'Keefe's phone call in the middle of the night. Sandy went for her and brought her back to the house, and she had an old letter. Who is it from? What did it say? Well, Charles, Mr. Murry regarded his son gravely. How about the charge? Charles Wallace did not reply immediately. He was studying the model of the Tesseract, and he touched one of the lucite rods carefully so that the entire model began to vibrate, to hum softly, throwing out sparkles of brilliance. We still don't know much about time, do we? I think. He looked bewildered. Father, I think it's going to be all right, but not because I was intelligent or brave or in control. Meg was right earlier this evening when she talked about everything, everywhere, interacting. You were gone longer than we expected. I was gone a long time, an incredibly long time. But what did you do? Sandy asked. And where did you go? Dennis added. Mostly I stayed right by the star-watching rock. Father, Meg exclaimed, the letter Mom O'Keefe brought. Charles hasn't seen it. Mrs. O'Keefe held up a yellow paper to Mr. Murry. Please read it to me, Father. Charles Wallace looked pale and exhausted. My dear Gwen and Rich, Mr. Murry read, thank you for writing us so promptly of Papa's death. Zilla and I are grateful that he died peacefully in his sleep with none of the suffering he feared. I know that you both and little Zilla are a consolation for Mama, and Papa had the satisfaction of having Rich for his partner, and of knowing that the name of Maddox and Locke will not be lost, for a young Rich talked with great enthusiasm about going to Marioneth when he is old enough. Our little Matthew is a rapidly growing boy. I had hoped that he grew out of babyhood, but as he grew out of babyhood, he would be called Matthew, but he keeps the nickname given him by the Indian children, Branzillo, a combination of my name and Zilla's. Little Rich tries to keep up with his big brother in every way. Mr. Murry looked up. The letter breaks off there. Strange, it seems stiff. Is that what I read before? Mrs. Murry frowned slightly. I'm not sure. It didn't sound quite, but we're all exhausted with strain and lack of sleep. Memory plays queer tricks at times like best. It has to be what Father read before, Sandy said flatly. It offends my reasonable mind, but it really does seem possible that Branzilla's forebears came from around here. The letter did come from Mrs. O'Keefe's attic, Dennis said, so it's even likely that he's distantly descended from her forebears, and that would make them umpteenth cousins. Sandy protested, but what effect could that have on his starting a nuclear war, or we hope, on not starting one? Charles Wallace turned away from the argument, looked once more at the Tesseract, then went to Mrs. O'Keefe, who was once again huddled in the rocking chair in front of the fire. Meg left the twins and followed Charles Wallace. Beezy, he asked softly, what happened to Chuck? Beezy, Chuck, they were in the vanishing kind. Meg stepped closer to the rocker to hear Mrs. O'Keefe's reply. He died, she said bleakly. How? They took him away and put him in an institution. He died there 6 months later. Charles Wallace expelled a long, sad breath. Oh, Beezy, Beezy, and the baby? Took after Duffbert Mortmain, died in the state penitentiary. Embezzlement. Let it be. What's done is done. What's gone is gone. Ananda pressed against Meg, and she stroked the raised head. Beezy, Chuck, Patty O'Keefe. The kite figured briefly in Meg's mind. Beezy must have married Patty for more or less the same reasons that her mother had married Duffbert Mortmain. And she learned not to feel, not to love, not even her children, not even Calvin, not to be hurt. But she gave Charles Wallace the rune and told him to use it to stop Mad Dog Branzillo. So there must be a little of the old music left in her. Matthew's book, Charles Wallace said. It's happening, all that he wrote. The phone rang. Mrs. Murry looked toward her husband, but did not speak. They waited tensely. Yes, Mr. President? Mr. Murry listened, and as he listened, he smiled. El Zarco is setting up a Congress for the working out of peace plans and the equitable distribution and preservation of the Earth's resources. What's that, Mr. President? He wants me to come as an advisor on the use of space for peace? Well, yes, of course, for a few weeks. But this is splendid news. Thank you for calling. He put down the receiver and turned to his family. El Zarco, Meg whispered. Madame Brazil's favorite nickname. You know that, her father said. The blue-eyed. But his threats, her father looked at her in surprise. Threats of war. Everybody except Charles Wallace and Mrs. O'Keefe were looking at her. The phone call before dinner, she said, was the president afraid of war? El Zarco has put down the militant members of his cabinet. He's always been known as a man of peace. Charles Wallace spoke softly, so only Meg could hear. They haven't traveled with a unicorn, Meg. There was no El Rabioso for them. When Matthew sent Zilla to marry Bran, and when Getter was killed, Bella might have been. El Rabioso was never born. It's always been El Zarco. He held her hand so tightly that it hurt. Mrs. O'Keefe looked at Meg, nodding. Baby will be born. Oh, Mom, Meg cried. Will you be glad to be a grandmother? Too late, the old woman said. Take me home. Chuck and Grandma are waiting for me. What's that? Mr. Murry asked. Chuck and Grandma, never mind, just take me home. I'll drive you, Mr. Murry said. Meg kissed her mother-in-law good night. It was the first time she'd ever kissed her. See you, Mom. See you soon. When the car drove off, Dennis turned to his sister. I'm not sure she'll make it to be a grandmother, Meg. I think her heart's running out. Why? Badly swollen ankles, blue tints to her fingernails and lips, shortness of breath. She ran all the way to the star-watching rock. She was short of breath before then. It's a wonder it didn't kill her. And what all that was about, I'll never know. This whole evening's confusing, Sandy agreed. I suggest we just forget and go to bed. And Mrs. O'Keefe would never have made it back without Dennis and me, Meg. But you're right, Mother. She's quite an old girl. She is indeed, Mrs. Murry agreed. And I agree with you, Sandy, about getting to bed. Meg, you need your sleep. The baby within Meg stirred. You're more than right about Mom O'Keefe, Mother. More right than any of us could possibly have imagined. There's much more to her than meets the eye. I hate the thought of losing her just as we're discovering her. Charles Wallace had once again been contemplating the intricate model of the Tesseract. He spoke softly to his sister. Meg, no matter what happens, even if Dennis is right about her heart, remember that it was herself she placed for the baby's sake, and yours, and Calvin's, and all of us. Meg looked at him questioningly. Charles Wallace's eyes, as he returned her gaze, were the blue of light as it glances off a unicorn's horn, pure and clear and infinitely deep. In this fateful hour, it was herself she placed between us and the powers of darkness.